Human kid offers toy to lonely alien child. 500 fierce warriors respond the next day. The desert winds of Tyranno swept across the open-air settlement, carrying fine red sand that glinted like copper in the harsh light of the alien sun. Commander Michael Clark stood tall among the delegation, his broad shoulders squared beneath his formal uniform as he listened to the Tyranian elder's gravelly voice. The diplomatic mission had been going smoothly, perhaps too smoothly for a first contact scenario, but Michael wasn't complaining. After 3 grueling wars with other species, humanity needed allies, not more enemies. The trade routes you propose would benefit both our peoples, Elder Karn said, his leathery blue skin crinkling around his eyes. But there are complications with the northern tribes. Michael nodded, mentally cataloging the subtle tells in the elder's body language. 6 years of xenolinguistics training had taught him that what wasn't said often mattered more than what was. Perhaps we can address those complications specifically, Michael suggested, his deep voice carrying across the circle of alien dignitaries. While the adults talked politics, 7-year-old Jamie Clark had grown bored. His father had brought him along on this mission as part of his education, but diplomatic negotiations weren't exactly thrilling to a boy his age. Slipping away from his father's side, Jamie wandered toward a group of Tyranian children playing what looked like a game involving colored stones and intricate patterns drawn in the sand. The alien children, with their blue skin and white hair, regarded him curiously but not unkindly. One of them, a boy about Jamie's age, gestured for him to join them. Jamie grinned and jogged over, his tousled light brown hair bouncing with each step. As he approached the group, Jamie noticed a small figure sitting alone at the edge of the settlement. A young Tyranian girl, perhaps 5 years old, watched the other children play with large, bright blue eyes that seemed to hold a universe of loneliness. Her snow-white hair was braided into thick plaits that fell over her shoulders, and she wore a simple fringed poncho decorated with tribal patterns. A thin tail swayed nervously behind her, occasionally drawing patterns in the sand. Jamie frowned. He knew what it felt like to be the odd one out. Being the son of a high-ranking diplomat meant constantly being the new kid. Making a split-second decision, he changed course and walked toward the solitary girl instead. The Tyranian children playing nearby suddenly grew quiet, watching him with strange intensity. One of them made a hissing sound and drew a finger across their throat, a surprisingly universal gesture of warning. Jamie ignored them. "Hi," he said, crouching down in front of the girl. "I'm Jamie. What's your name?" The girl's eyes widened and she shrank back slightly. Her tail curled protectively around her ankles. "Can you understand me?" Jamie asked, remembering that not all Tyranians had translation implants. The girl nodded hesitantly but remained silent. Jamie reached into his pocket and pulled out his most prized possession, a small, shining model of an Earth starship, the Intrepid. His father had given it to him before his mother died in the Proxima conflict. It was his good luck charm, his connection to home. "Here," he said, holding it out to her. "It's for you. Let's play together." The girl stared at the toy, then at Jamie's face, searching for some kind of trick or trap. Finding none, she slowly reached out and took the model ship, her 3-fingered hand brushing against his. "Elia," she whispered, her voice like wind chimes. "My name is Elia." For the first time, a shy smile spread across her face, transforming her features from wary to radiant. Jamie grinned back, feeling that peculiar warmth that comes from making someone happy. Unbeknownst to the children, their interaction had drawn attention. Elder Karn had stopped mid-sentence, his eyes fixed on the scene unfolding at the edge of the settlement. Michael followed his gaze and felt a spike of parental concern, quickly assessing the situation for any danger. "Your son," Elder Karn said, his voice oddly strained. "He approaches the outcast child." "Outcast?" Michael asked, his protective instincts flaring. "Is she dangerous?" A strange sound emerged from Elder Karn, something that might have been a laugh, but carried an edge of discomfort. "No, Commander Clark. She is the daughter of Chief Turan of the Northern Tribes. Her mother was from our settlement. The union was not sanctioned. The child stays with us during the warm season as a part of an arrangement." Michael watched as Jamie and the girl began to draw patterns in the sand together, the little girl occasionally glancing up at his son with something like wonder. "I see no problem here," Michael said firmly. Children have a way of cutting through our adult complications, don't they? Elder Karn's expression was unreadable. Indeed, Commander. More than you know, he gestured to the other elders. Let us continue our discussions inside. The afternoon heat grows intense. As the diplomats moved toward the large communal building, Michael called to his son. Jamie, we're heading inside. Stay where I can see you, all right? Oh, Jamie waved acknowledgement but didn't leave his new friend's side. Michael smiled slightly. His son had always had good instincts about people, even blue-skinned alien people with tails. What Michael couldn't have known was that by nightfall, messengers would be racing across the desert plains of Tyranno, carrying news to the fierce northern tribes. News of a small human boy who had done what no Tyranian child had done, offered friendship to the daughter of their great chief. And by morning, the drums of the northern warriors would be heard across the desert. Michael woke to the insistent beeping of his communicator. The digital display read 0530. Dawn was still an hour away on Tyranno. He groaned, running a hand through his dark hair as he fumbled for the device. Clark here, he answered, voice gravelly with sleep. Commander, you need to come to the settlement perimeter immediately. It was Lieutenant Parker, his security officer. The tension in her voice instantly cleared the fog from Michael's mind. What's happening, Lieutenant? Sir, we've got company. A lot of company. Michael was dressed and out the door of his temporary quarters in under 3 minutes. Jamie still slept soundly in the adjoining room, curled around his backpack. Michael hesitated, then decided to let him sleep. No sense alarming the boy until he knew what they were dealing with. The settlement was stirring to life, Tyranian villagers emerging from their dome-shaped dwellings with expressions of alarm. Michael spotted Parker on a small rise at the edge of the settlement, her hand resting on her sidearm as she peered through binoculars. Report, Michael said as he reached her side. Parker handed him the binoculars without a word. Michael raised them to his eyes and felt his breath catch. On the horizon, silhouetted against the pre-dawn sky, a massive formation approached. Even at this distance, he could make out hundreds of figures marching in disciplined rows, banners fluttering above them. I count at least 500, Fern, Parker said. Armed, but in formation. Not in attack posture. Michael nodded, studying the approaching force. Wake the rest of the team. Alert status, but no visible weapons unless I give the order. We don't want to provoke them. As Parker moved to comply, Elder Karn approached. His usual dignified gait now hurried. Commander Clark, he said, his voice strained. The northern tribes come. So I see, Michael replied evenly. Should we be concerned? Elder Karn's expression was unreadable. That depends on their purpose. We have a complicated history. Would this have anything to do with my son's interaction with the girl yesterday? The elder's silence was answer enough. I need to know what we're dealing with, Elder, Michael pressed. My people's safety, and your people's, depends on it. Elder Karn sighed, his breath visible in the cool morning air. The girl, Ilya, is the daughter of Chief Toran of the northern tribes and Lyra of our settlement. Their union violated our customs. When Lyra died 3 seasons ago, an arrangement was made. Ilya would spend half the year with each tribe, but she belongs to neither world fully. The rhythmic sound of drums grew louder as the warriors drew closer. And my son showed her kindness, Michael concluded. The first she has received from any child, human or Tyranian, Elder Karn confirmed. Such things mattered to the northern tribes. By now, most of the settlement had gathered, watching the approaching warriors with trepidation. Michael spotted Jamie among them, rubbing sleep from his eyes as he clutched the hand of a settlement guard who had evidently brought him from their quarters. Michael strode over and knelt before his son. Jamie, I need you to listen carefully. Those people coming, they're from Ilya's father's tribe. Jamie's eyes widened. Is Ilya in trouble because of me? No, son. But I need you to stay close, all right? No wandering off. The boy nodded solemnly and Michael ruffled his hair before standing to face the approaching force. The northern tribe warriors halted precisely at the settlement boundary. They were impressive, taller than the settlement Tyranians, with darker blue skin and elaborate facial markings. Their armor gleamed in the first rays of the rising sun, made from what appeared to be polished bone and metal alloys. Each carried a long spear and a curved blade at their hip. From their ranks, a single figure emerged, taller than the rest with elaborate white markings covering his deep blue skin and a headdress of what looked like desert bird feathers. He could only be Chief Toron. His eyes, the same bright blue as Aaliyah's, surveyed the settlement with regal disdain. Behind Michael, the settlement Turanians had begun to kneel, heads bowed. Elder Karn remained standing, but lowered his gaze respectfully. Michael stood his ground, back straight, meeting the chief's gaze directly. 6 years in the diplomatic corps had taught him that showing weakness in first contact situations rarely ended well. Chief Toran's voice boomed across the open space, speaking in the clicking, melodic language of the Turanians. The settlement's translator, a nervous-looking male, stepped forward. Great Chief Toron of the Northern Tribes greets the settlement of Karn Vosh and the visitors from beyond the stars. He translated, "We have come to see the child who did not reject the one all others turned away from. This child accepted the daughter of our great house. Let him come forward so we may honor him." All eyes turned to Jamie, who shrank slightly against Michael's leg. "It's okay, son," Michael murmured, placing a reassuring hand on Jamie's shoulder. "I'll be right beside you." Together, they stepped forward. The chief's piercing gaze shifted from Michael to Jamie, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. From behind the chief, a small figure darted forward. Elia, dressed now in the elaborate garb of the Northern Tribes, though still clutching Jamie's toy starship. She ran to her father's side, tugging at his ceremonial robes and speaking rapidly in their native tongue. The chief listened, then knelt to his daughter's level. Their brief exchange ended with a nod from Toron. He stood and addressed the gathering again. "My daughter speaks of the human child's kindness," the translator conveyed. "She says he gave her his most treasured possession and asked nothing in return. Such generosity must be acknowledged." Chief Toron made a gesture, and one of his warriors stepped forward, carrying an ornate wooden box. The chief took it and approached Jamie and Michael. "The Northern Tribes honor those who show honor," he said through the translator. "The human child has shown more wisdom than many with 10 times his seasons." He opened the box and removed a small pendant, a blue stone set in silver, hanging from a leather cord. "This marks him as a friend of the Northern Tribes," the chief continued. "No harm shall come to him in our lands." Michael nodded to Jamie, who stepped forward with remarkable composure for a 7-year-old. The chief placed the pendant around Jamie's neck, then placed a hand on the boy's head in what was clearly a blessing. As this ceremonial exchange took place, Michael noticed a figure standing just behind the chief, a female warrior whose bearing and position suggested high rank. Unlike the other warriors, her facial markings were delicate, almost artistic, highlighting sharp cheekbones and intelligent eyes. Those eyes, Michael realized with a start, were fixed on him with unmistakable interest. When she caught him looking, her lips curved into what might have been a smile, revealing a flash of sharp teeth. Michael felt an unexpected jolt of attraction, followed immediately by professional embarrassment. This was hardly the time or place for such thoughts. The chief straightened and turned to Michael. "You have raised an honorable son, commander of the Sky People. Perhaps there is wisdom in your kind that we did not expect." "Thank you, Chief Toron," Michael replied, bowing his head slightly. "My son simply did what he felt was right. I'm proud that his actions have helped build understanding between our peoples." The chief nodded, then turned to Elder Karn with a markedly cooler expression. Words were exchanged in their native tongue, too rapid for the translator to keep up, but the tension was palpable. Finally, Chief Toron made a sweeping gesture. "The Northern Tribes will camp outside the settlement for 3 days. We will observe your negotiations. Perhaps it is time for old wounds to heal." With that pronouncement, the warriors began to withdraw in perfect formation, leaving the settlement buzzing with excitement and apprehension. As they departed, the female warrior who had caught Michael's attention lingered, her gaze meeting his once more. She touched her hand to her chest in what seemed a personal salute, then turned to follow her people. Michael watched her go, feeling as though something significant had just transpired, something beyond diplomacy or protocol. Beside him, Jamie looked up, the new pendant gleaming against his shirt. "Dad? Did I do something important?" Michael smiled, placing his hand on his son's shoulder. "More important than you know, Jamie. More important than you know." The northern tribe's encampment transformed the outskirts of the settlement into a vibrant tapestry of tents and banners. As the second day of negotiations drew to a close, Michael found himself walking the perimeter, ostensibly reviewing security but actually seeking a moment's peace from the tense diplomatic sessions. Elder Karn and Chief Torin maintained a brittle civility that threatened to shatter at the slightest provocation. Only the presence of the Earth delegation kept their ancient grievances from boiling over. Meanwhile, Jamie had become something of a celebrity among both tribes, spending his days with Elia and a growing circle of Turanian children who had overcome their initial hesitation. "Your son bridges worlds without even trying," came a melodic voice from behind him. Michael turned to find the female warrior who had caught his eye during the welcoming ceremony. Up close, she was even more striking, her dark blue skin adorned with intricate silver markings that highlighted the strong lines of her face. She stood nearly as tall as he did, her posture impeccable, her movements fluid and precise. "Commander Clark," she said, touching her fist to her chest in what he now recognized as a warrior salute. "I am Nara, First Blade to Chief Torin." "First Blade," Michael repeated, returning the gesture. "That sounds important." A smile played at the corners of her mouth, revealing those sharp teeth that somehow Michael found alluring, rather than threatening. "I command the chief's personal guard and lead our warriors in battle," she explained. "Your Lieutenant Parker holds a similar position for you, yes?" Michael nodded, impressed by her observational skills. "You've been studying us." "As you have been studying us." Her bright eyes, a deeper blue than the settlement Turanians, held his gaze with unflinching directness. "I have a proposition, Commander." "Michael," he corrected automatically. "Michael," she repeated, the name sounding exotic in her accent. The negotiations progressed slowly. "While the elders talk, perhaps we might exchange knowledge of a different kind." He raised an eyebrow. "What did you have in mind?" "Combat techniques," she replied. "I would learn your human methods, and in exchange, I'd teach you ours. Knowledge shared builds trust, does it not?" There was something in her tone that suggested more than just martial exchange, but Michael kept his expression professional. "That sounds beneficial. When would you like to begin?" "Now, if you are not otherwise occupied." She gestured toward an open area beyond the last row of tents. "Unless the desert heat is too much for human endurance?" The challenge in her voice was unmistakable, and Michael found himself grinning despite his diplomatic training. "Lead the way, First Blade." The training area was a flat expanse of packed sand. Nara removed her ornate outer armor, revealing a close-fitting tunic that accentuated her athletic form. Michael shed his uniform jacket, the dry heat immediately soaking through his undershirt. "We begin with stance," Nara said, demonstrating a position that reminded Michael of Earth's ancient martial arts. "The foundation must be solid before the blade can strike true." For the next hour, they exchanged basic forms and techniques. Michael demonstrated human boxing and wrestling moves, while Nara showed him the flowing, precise strikes of Turanian combat. Their styles were different yet complementary, human strength and directness balanced against Turanian flexibility and speed. As they sparred, conversation flowed naturally between them. "Your son has his father's courage," Nara remarked, dodging a controlled punch. "And his eyes? His kindness comes from his mother?" Michael replied, blocking a swift kick. "Oh, she was a xenobiologist, fascinated by other cultures, other species." "Was?" Nara caught the past tense. "She died during the Proxima conflict 3 years ago. Her research vessel was caught in a crossfire." Nara paused, then touched her fist to her chest in respect. "The stars claimed a warrior then." "She would have liked that description," Michael said with a sad smile. They resumed their sparring, but something had shifted between them. A shared understanding, perhaps, or simply the honesty of physical exertion breaking down barriers. "You fight well for a diplomat," Nara observed, circling him. "All Earth representatives receive combat training," Michael explained. "Our first contacts haven't always been peaceful." "Yet you came to Tirana with a child, not a warship." "We learned from our mistakes." Their movements had become almost dance-like, each anticipating the other's next move. When Nara finally pinned him with a swift leg sweep, their faces were inches apart, breath mingling in the cooling evening air. I believe I win this round, she said, her voice husky. I believe you do, Michael agreed, acutely aware of her weight against him, the strange heat of her skin. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Then a distant alarm shattered the silence. They were on their feet instantly, all thoughts of attraction replaced by professional alertness. The alarm was coming from the settlement. That's an Earth emergency signal, Michael said, already running. They reached the settlement perimeter in time to see chaos unfolding. A sleek black ship hovered above the central gathering area, its design unlike anything Michael had seen before. Beam weapons lanced from its underside, scorching the ground and sending Terranians scattering. Raiders! Nara hissed, her face contorted with rage. The techs! Michael's blood ran cold. Jamie, dash! Dash! The children were in the learning dome, Nara said, pointing to a structure on the far side of the settlement. They sprinted toward it, Nara calling out commands to Northern warriors who were already mobilizing with impressive speed. Settlement Terranians fled in panic, while Earth security personnel established defensive positions. Who are they? Michael demanded as they ran. Scavengers. They raid border settlements for technology and slaves, Nara explained grimly. They must have detected your ship's energy signature. The learning dome came into view, its entrance guarded by 2 Northern warriors and Lieutenant Parker, who looked relieved to see Michael. Commander, the children are secure inside, but we've got hostiles throughout the settlement, at least 30, heavily armed. Jamie, safe, sir. He's with the Terranian girl and the other children. Michael nodded, turning to Nara. We need to coordinate our defense, your warriors and my team. Agreed, she said without hesitation. The techs expected easy prey, not united resistance. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Michael saw something that transcended species or culture, a shared determination to protect what mattered. Without thinking, he reached out and squeezed her hand. Be careful out there. Her fingers tightened around his. You as well, Michael of Earth. As they separated to organize their forces, Michael couldn't help but reflect on the irony. It had taken an attack by hostile aliens to bridge the final gap between them. In the midst of danger, he found himself drawn to her fierce protectiveness, her unwavering courage, qualities that mirrored his own. The coming battle would test them both. But for now, knowing Jamie was safe and having Nara fighting alongside him, Michael felt a surge of confidence. Humanity had faced worse odds and prevailed. This would be no different. With a final glance at the learning dome where his son sheltered, Michael readied his weapon and moved to join Lieutenant Parker at the defensive line. The raiders would soon discover they had made a grave miscalculation in targeting this particular settlement. The Tex raiders fought with ruthless efficiency. Their sleek black armor absorbed energy weapon fire, and their tactics suggested military training rather than the disorganized approach of typical scavengers. Michael and Nara established a defensive perimeter around the learning dome. Northern warriors fighting alongside Earth security personnel with surprising coordination. They're pushing toward the central building, Lieutenant Parker shouted over the din of battle, her rifle taking down a Tex fighter who had broken through the line. Michael nodded grimly. They're after something specific. The settlement archives, Nara confirmed, her twin blades flashing as she dispatched an attacker. Ancient knowledge is stored there, including weapons technology. A massive explosion rocked the settlement's eastern edge. Through the smoke, Michael saw Elder Karn being dragged toward the tech ship by 2 raiders. The Elder was struggling weakly, blood streaming from a head wound. They've got Karn, Michael shouted. Nara's eyes narrowed. They want him to access the sealed archives. Only settlement elders know the protocols. Before they could formulate a rescue plan, the raiders' ship began to rise, and its engines humming with ominous power. The remaining Tex fighters retreated in coordinated fashion, covering each other as they fell back. They're leaving, Parker said, sounding relieved but confused. With Elder Karn and at least 4 other captives, Michael added grimly. This wasn't just a raid, it was an abduction mission. Chief Torrens strode toward them, his ceremonial armor now scarred from battle. The cowards flee to their mountain fortress, he growled. They know we cannot follow them through the burning canyons. Not without proper preparation, Nara corrected, but we must try. The captives will not survive long in Tech's hands. The chief's expression darkened. Even for Karn, the risk is too great. The canyons have claimed many warriors. With respect, Chief, Michael interjected, we can't abandon those people. My team has equipment that might help navigate the canyons. Toran studied him with newfound respect. You would risk your life for Terranians you barely know. That's what humans do, Michael replied simply. A commotion from the learning dome interrupted their discussion. Children's voices raised in excitement rather than fear. Michael turned to see Jamie and Aaliyah emerging from the building, followed by the other children and their guardians. Dad! Dad! Jamie called, running toward them with Aaliyah close behind. We found something! The boy was clutching what appeared to be an ancient stone tablet covered in Terranian script. Aaliyah pointed excitedly at specific markings. It was under the floor, she explained, her voice breathless with excitement. When the raiders came, Jamie fell against the teaching pedestal, and it moved. Toran knelt to examine the tablet, his expression shifting from skepticism to astonishment. The shield of ancestors, he whispered. It is not merely legend? What is it? Michael asked. An ancient defense system, Nara explained, her eyes wide with wonder. Created before the division of our people. It is said to protect all of Toronto from those who would plunder our world. Can it help us rescue the captives? Michael pressed. If activated, it could disable Tech's technology throughout the mountain range, Toran said. But the activation site lies deep in the burning canyons, near the Tech's stronghold itself. Jamie looked up at his father. The tablet shows the way, Dad. Aaliyah can read the old symbols. Michael met his son's determined gaze, so like his own. Pride swelled in his chest, tempered by parental concern. This is dangerous, Jamie. I know, the boy replied solemnly, but Aaliyah's friends need help. Michael exchanged glances with Nara, who nodded almost imperceptibly. We'll organize a rescue team, he decided. Small, fast, with representatives from both tribes and my security detail. I will lead the Northern Warriors, Nara declared, and I will command our forces here, Toran added, to protect the settlement should the raiders return. As preparations began, Nara pulled Michael aside. Night had fallen, and the twin moons of Toronto cast everything in silver light. There is something you should know before we undertake this journey, she said, her voice low. The burning canyons are not merely dangerous because of terrain. They affect the mind, bring forth fears, desires, truths hidden even from oneself. Michael raised an eyebrow. Some kind of hallucinogenic gas? Something more profound. The ancient texts speak of it as the revealing fire. Her eyes met his, unguarded for the first time. We will have no secrets from each other after this journey. The implication hung between them, charged with possibility. Michael found himself stepping closer, drawn by something beyond physical attraction. I'm not sure I have any secrets from you now, he admitted. Her hand rose to touch his face, fingers tracing the line of his jaw with gentle curiosity. Your species fascinates me, Michael Clark. Your strength is not merely physical. You carry compassion like a weapon. Is that unusual among your people? We value strength above all. Compassion is reserved for one's own clan. Her thumb brushed his lower lip. Yet you extend it to strangers, even enemies. Not a weakness? I once thought so. Her voice had dropped to a whisper. I no longer believe this. The space between them vanished. Their lips met, tentative at first, then with growing hunger. Her skin was warmer than human norm, her taste exotic yet intoxicating. Michael pulled her against him, feeling the strong, lithe body beneath her armor. When they finally separated, both breathing heavily, Nara's eyes had darkened to a deeper blue. This is unexpected, she murmured. Regrets? Michael asked. None. Her sharp teeth flashed in a smile. Though among my people, such joining traditionally comes after shared battle. Oh, we just fought side by side, he pointed out. True. Her fingers traced patterns on his chest. But the greater battle lies ahead. Tonight we prepare. Tomorrow we fight. And after. The promise in her voice sent heat coursing through him. After, Michael agreed, reluctantly stepping back, we have captives to rescue and children to protect. Nara nodded, her expression shifting back to the professional